Hey buddy, it's kayak DIY time. Let's talk about some mods. I have built a completely new console for the Jackson Kilroy. This is prior to the HD model. So, you know, the HD model, they've kind of taken some of the ideas that I've had and actually integrated that, but I promise you, mine was first. So, let's go over what I've done and why I've done it. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to do with this setup was try to optimize space, and I really like having my rods in front of me. So one of the things that I did here was I got, as you can see, I added gear track on this flat system, and I've also got a couple of the bullwinkles made by Yak Attack. So I can put about 4 bait casting rods right up next to each other, have them all rigged up right up front. Let's say, for instance, you're fishing the topwater, and you miss a strike. You can have a Cinco or whatever rigged up right up here up front. And bam, you just pick it up and go. And then if you're in rough water, you can put this elastic over this, and these rods will be, and I'll get into more detail on a bullwinkle in a separate video, what I've done to modify these, but you can see I've got this bungee right here, that one-handed, you can just relax, but this is going to keep the rod in place if you're in rough water or if you're worried about turning over and losing your rod in the drink. I've got the Yak Attack track-mounted cup holder. I do not use this for holding beverages. What I use it for instead, actually, this is a great little kind of junk drawer. If I'm shifting through lures, throwing stuff in and out, I can just pop them right in here. What's great about this is, too, if you're changing out sinkers or have other terminal tackle that's kind of smaller to work with, just drop it right there in the plug. I've got a track over here, and as you can see, I've got that set up for rod holder. So got the Mega Pro right there. I can use that for additional rod storage. A lot of times what I'll do is put spinning rods in there. The spinning rods don't fit quite as well in the bullwinkle just because they're a little bit bulkier width-wise. So I'll usually stick that in there if I'm fishing a spinning rod. But you can also adjust this, move it up in and out of the way if you need to. What I like about this system with the rod up here, I can still use these paddle holders right here, and the rod doesn't get in the way of that. So one of the things you're going to see with this console here up top, I've got some magnets that I've mounted right here. Let me show you what these are for. Now, these are industrial strength magnets. When I say industrial strength, I think they're rated to hold about 60 pounds a piece. What I've done is I have mounted my battery box, and I'll make a separate video on the battery box. But I've got 2 just basic galvanized steel plates used for like mending braces for like an outside fence or something like that. Mounted that to the bottom, and watch this. And I promise you, that is not going anywhere. This makes this system completely modular. I can take this on and off in less than 30 seconds. If I don't need to use a fish finder for a day, I don't have to. My battery system is completely self-contained in this. I don't have to run wiring anywhere else over the boat. I've got USB charger in there, so I've got a backup charger for a phone or a GoPro battery if I need it. And then, because I've got this mounted on a track system, if I don't need this fish finder for the day, you know what? I can mount another rod holder here. So, or I can mount another accessory if I need to. So, this console up top, you can see I've got additional rod storage. I've got kind of junk accessory storage. I've got my fish finder mount right here. And I'll show you another neat little trick. I have rigged up also these same magnets here, multi-purpose, because I've got some rigged up on the bottom of this as well, and I'll pull this off here in a second and show you. But this is how I've optimized this system, is this actually fits right up underneath the console right here. There you go. That's how easy it is to get to your 3600 style boxes. So you can see with these magnets mounted, I've got one mounted right here and one mounted right here. There you go. And that's enough for 2 3600 boxes to sit side by side. As you can see, the box itself, I just sanded, used epoxy to epoxy this on. Important that you do not use a stainless steel washer. You want to use a galvanized or zinc plated washer instead. The stainless steel, for whatever reason, just don't hold to the magnets as well as they need to underneath here. Now typically when I'm driving back and forth, I don't usually try to leave these boxes up here, but on occasion I've forgotten, and we're talking like riding over some rough roads, you know, gravel roads, you know, nasty blacktop out on the highway, and these things have managed to stay in place. So, you know, in the event that you do turn your kayak over, I'm just not worried about these boxes coming loose. It takes some strength to get those things pulled off. Like I say, it's nice and quiet. It's easy to grab if you're trying to load tackle quietly without having to get into a lot of noise, as opposed to like these, reaching over. It's just hard to get that without it banging on the side. These are nice and quiet. They stay in place. They're out of the way. Now maybe if you like have gigantic feet, like that might get in the way. I don't know. I don't have big feet, so that's not a problem for me. This is pretty basic in terms of how this attaches. I've got a bungee that I've run through up here, up top, and as you can see, that's going to kind of hold it in place. I've got two track bolts that I've got on the side here that I just, you know, got like a quarter 20 size knob from the hardware store and put on there. So just with these three mounting locations right here, I mean, you can get this thing down tight enough. It's certainly not going to go anywhere. You've got the bungee up top right here for, you know, kind of additional shock protection, but that's pretty sturdy. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and take a look at the underside of it as well. Now, the underside here, you can see I've got the two magnets I talked about. I can link in the description where you can find these on Amazon. So, but that's it. That's it for the console. This is just a 1/2-inch thick sheet of HDPE, also known as starboard. I ordered it off of eBay. This was a 24-inch by 36-inch sheet. And I made just a cut across it to basically make it 24 inches square. And at that point, I was able to go ahead and just make a couple of cuts on the diagonal across here. And I was able to get this all kind of trimmed down so it looks a little bit more like it fits to the boat. It's not as rounded, obviously, as the original Kilroy console is, but I think it looks pretty slick. And like I say, I think this is an incredibly more functional design. Let me show you why I think this is so much better than the original Kilroy design, what I wanted to change about the Kilroy design, and we'll compare these two kind of next to each other. So let's look at the original and very, very dirty Kilroy console. Let's just start with how they've arranged this. You know, I have... you know, maybe a different idea about how I want to set my fishing, you know, up and the efficiency that I want to use. But the way that they set this up, first of all, let's look at these side areas right here. What are you supposed to do with this? This box right here, this is a 3500 Plano box. This is one of the smaller tackle boxes you're going to find that most anglers are going to get for utility trays. Like that doesn't fit in there very well at all. Maybe this is like designed for a fly rod, or excuse me, like a fly case, and maybe a fly case works in there really well. Not a fly fisherman, I don't know. I fish primarily for bass, and I can tell you, like that doesn't work. The way that they designed this, where they've got this little, you know, pocket in here, which is in theory good for cell phones or other types of things like keys. The problem is it's so deep. Look how deep that is. Look how narrow this is. I don't have big hands. Even my hand trying to get inside there to like reach something and get something that's slid all the way back into here, good luck. Like that is going to be stuck down at the bottom. You're literally going to have to take this console off and dump it to get something to fall out. Like it's just not a smart design. The other thing, look at it too, you've got some areas up here where you've got rod stagers potentially. these angled areas. But functionally, you know, you've got room for really just one rod right there, and you don't have a corresponding groove up here for that to fit into. So it doesn't really make a great rod staging area. The way that it's angled, originally you can see I had some track mounted in here to try to be able to put rod holders in place. But you know, functionally, the way that it kind of fits out towards the side and the way that it angles, it's really difficult to find track that works well. And then when you do find track that you know you got in there, because of the way it's angled, you just don't have enough space with a single rod holder there to maximize the way that you can with this setup. So with this one, you can see right here, like in that same amount of space that you've got, I'm able to get my little junk tray just like you have underneath there. I've got 4 rods that I can fit just on the bullwinkle. I've got a battery box set up right here, and I've got room for an additional rod holder. And this is not to be critical of Jackson, it just doesn't set up well for the way that I fish. And I look at it with the way that this is set up, if you're going to be taking up this much space on the kayak, it really needs to be functional. And it really needs to be able to serve multiple purposes. And the way that this originally was set up, it just didn't work for me. Now, I will say that I think that Jackson probably recognized that to some degree. And I think with the Kilroy HD, I think they've tried to solve some of those problems. And, you know, I had bought this a year before the Kilroy HD came out. Hopefully this has given you some ideas, even if you don't have a Kilroy. Even if you've got a sit-on-top style kayak, you know, where you're not going to need to build a console like this, take some time, look at your setup, think about the way that you fish, think about what's going to work for you. And, you know, if you look at it, you know, the areas back behind you, usually you're going to have like hatch storage, or you're going to have crate storage. You know, you're going to have these big tank wells, you know, that allow you to do stuff in the back. Most people don't think about optimizing this bow area up front, but man, it's a really good way to go. Everything's right in front of you. You've got your tackle storage right there. You've got your rods that you can just pick up and grab when you need to. You know, you can put your paddle up in front of you. You're not having to mess with like putting it on the sides. I just really think it's a good system. Hopefully you found some good ideas in here if you don't have a Kilroy. If you do have a Kilroy, I've given you a good blueprint here that you can build off of to try to optimize your own fishing setup. Thanks.